Hey, welcome to You Won't Hate It, where we look at life through the lens of pastors at the length of a cigar. I'm Josh.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Joe, and Floyd's not here.
And today we're talking about pastors being attacked. Marmari, the gentleman in Pennsylvania.
Have you ever been
To
verbally?
Pennsylvania?
No, I haven't. You have been too.
Yeah.
Have you ever been, let's go, verbally attacked because you're a pastor? Just curious, even just verbally, where someone comes at you. Forget physical.
I mean, we've joked about it before, but a guy with his finger in my face said,
it's true.
You call yourself a pastor."
Yeah, and he was doing the he was
very
doing the
angry.
pointing.
He was very
Have you ever been attacked for being a pastor?
No, I don't think so.
And obviously, both of these stories we're talking about, the person talked about having
These are
mental,
physical.
They had mental issues.
Yeah.
Mine was only the one guy. I don't know if it was because I was a pastor. He said I was doing something bad because we housed a homeless guy on my own dime.
Yeah.
And we were at a meeting. We're helping the homeless guy and got him out of there. He had two toddlers. First, he lived in my basement.
Yeah.
Then we got him an apartment, and then people drove him because he had eyesight problems. So we drove him around to work.
Yeah.
And the guy comes in, he goes, "You're in league with the devil." That's what he said to me. Probably the only time in ministry that I physically got up to be violent. And because I came out of my chair, it wasn't even planned. Because I was kind of like, I'm not getting it. I'm not understanding. I'm like, it's not the church's money. It's my money. I don't get it. I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You're in league with the devil." And he stood up, and I just came out of my chair. Youth pastor and worship pastor grabbed me immediately because I was just like, "Oh, what?" No, that was it.
Why were you in? What was his reasoning? Like, what?
That's it. He never explained it. I kept being like, "I don't get it. How am I doing something wrong?"
Yeah, he just maybe it was like a handout concept where he's like, "You shouldn't be helping them."
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird concept.
And he's like, so I was like, that was the most like someone's like, I'm like, I don't even understand. It doesn't make sense.
I can't remember much at all there. I mean, we like missions all over the world. We brought bulletproof vests to a spot in Guatemala because we're like the last pastor who was there got killed.
That would qualify because you're anticipating that you could be attacked.
Yeah, but what's funny
ministry.
is we weren't. Like we were met with, great people. We dropped off the stuff. We spent all day with the church that was up there, and then
I just have this Back to the Future. He grabs the future vest and he goes, "Dork, who thinks he's gonna drown?"
Yeah.
They're just grabbing Ryan in Spanish. They're like, "Dork thinks he's gonna get shot."
Dork thinks he's gonna get shot. Well, I mean, the last guy got murdered. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm anticipating.
Been heckled a few times on stage, which I think is always funny.
I've definitely been heckled.
Yeah.
I've definitely someone's just like, I'm like, okay, well, we're just doing this right here.
And I don't even care. I think that's great.
Wow.
In fact, we'll get to these two stories. A similar one that was very interesting. Did you see the one where the guy starts swearing from the congregation? So pretty big church. Cannot remember the name of this. I wish I could remember all of it because it was actually really cool. The guy swears a little bit, and the pastor's like, hey man, like, you know what? Addresses him real well, and it's like, "Hey, do me a favor, like, quiet down a little bit." And the guy, however they end up talking during the sermon, looks like a big mega church. The guy swearing in the congregation was a homeless guy who another congregant basically picked up on the side of the road and brought to church. And the pastor was super cool. And I guess they do a lot of homeless ministry, this church does. And he goes, "You know what? Man, this isn't planned, but like, I just really feel like we should do this. Why don't you guys come on stage?" And so he brings both of them, the homeless guy and the other congregant, brings them on stage, sits them down and interviews them. And it turns out the guy, he's a young guy. He'd been at the church for a couple years. He said he was driving home, saw this homeless guy, went and got some food, turned around to bring him food. The guy was gone. And so he's like, "Gosh dang it." So he sees this other guy on the side of the road, gives it to him. They get to talking. He says something about like he wants to go to church, and he goes, "And I just got done with service." So I was like, I don't want to go to second service, so it was one of those. But he goes, I just felt like I should. Puts him in the car. They drive there. Homeless guy tells a little bit of the story. And while he's talking, the homeless guy goes, "I was going to kill myself today."
Wow.
And he says, "I had it planned. I was ready. And then this guy shows up, like, brings me food, brings me to church." It was the most beautiful
Why was he swearing
story
in the sermon?
It was something like it was funny. Like he was like, he said something like, "Oh, that's BS." Like he was more yelling, not in a mean way. He was kind of being funny, but he did it a couple times.
Right.
And then you were like, "Does he have Tourette's or what's going on?" And the pastor was honestly handled it super well. Was like, "Hey man, like, do me a favor. Let's just not kind of swear. There's kids in the building," type thing. And then he said something else. And so then it was you could hear them having a conversation.
Right.
Dude, it was, I actually thought like, man, what a fun opportunity to get
amazing.
to like
Yeah.
talk through it like that.
Yep.
And he did what we've talked about in the past. Like, dude, your church service that you have planned out
Yep.
is more about God meeting with the people and people meeting with
Yep.
God than your sermon. So he just changed it all, shifted it all from, and then like, moved into this, brings them on stage. Totally meaningful and worth watching. Like,
Yeah.
it's really, really cool.
It's funny you say that because I didn't think it'd be this raw still, but when I was at First Baptist, church is growing, nice, big, growing, all cool things
Yeah.
are happening. And I
At
go
other
on
churches.
stage. Yeah. And it's like, so everything, it's like, oh, it's all going, how things are happening. It's pretty cool. And go on stage, and all of a sudden this guy just walks from behind me on stage, right across from the back of the stage in front of me. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's fine. Go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
It turns out it's a homeless guy
Yeah.
who goes to church every Sunday and doesn't have speech. And the moment those words left my mouth, I was immediately like, I'm so sorry.
yeah, like shame.
I felt horrible.
Yeah.
I cried so hard between services.
Did you apologize right then and there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Because you're being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
yeah, he's just being funny.
Just
Yeah.
trying to be
Yeah.
funny, but I thought,
Yeah.
man, that was the wrong thing to do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I was like, all right. I'm like, and I felt it was so hard to preach that sermon after
Yeah.
that.
Oh.
Even after I apologized, I was like,
So
I
this
just feel like
brings up
garbage.
this brings up a funny thing I actually wanted to ask you guys. So Sunday, same exact experience. We laughed about this at staff meeting a ton. So I do that like bit where I make fun of Scott a little bit. Got so out of hand. It was the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. It bombed like I've never, because
that's why I was like trying to help any way I can.
no,
I'm
it
like,
was the worst.
I love you guys talked about it.
Oh,
It did
no.
bomb. I was like,
it
oh
was-
no.
we
There's
talked about it a lot.
more people going like, oh.
Because long story short,
Don't be short. I want to know. I'm
So
dying. I didn't hear anything.
Fill them in.
okay,
Yeah.
so
I didn't hear it.
So 2 weeks ago, one of the pastors preached, and he poked fun at little idiosyncrasies that Joe and I have, like goofy stuff, and his little stuff like our little mananorisms. No
I'm
big
so
deal.
uncomfortable for this story right now.
No, it was the best. So he does that, and so I think as I'm writing my sermon the next week, I go, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to poke fun back, and then I go, you know what? What would be way better is I'm going to like milk it, and basically, so I wrote this whole thing. I will show you my sermon. I wrote this whole thing about saying, Scott poked fun at us, but I'm going to take the high road. I would never throw another pastor under the bus. And I had this whole funny thing written that was going to be super sarcastic about how I'm taking the high road and showing people how to be good Christians type thing. It was going to be funny. We were going to move on. I'm going to be like totally joking, obviously. Like I was going to do a bit about like how I was starting, what I did, which is I'm starting in verse 21, even though he finished in 26 because he didn't do. And there was like one joke about like, somebody wasn't inspired by the Holy Spirit. Something like that. Then going to be like, obviously kidding. I've known Scott for 30 years. I love him. He's amazing. And then move on. That morning, I thought, it'd be funny if while I was saying that, like I'm going to take the high road, I have them put that picture of him up behind me. And then I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to move on. So I go that morning, sadly, I sent it to Josh. I was like, in my head, this will be funny.
Right.
Send it to Josh. He gets it set up. I go to the sound booth. I'm like, hey, as I do this, I want you to put the picture up here when I'm saying it. She goes, awesome, got it. She puts it up like way too early to where I haven't done the setup yet.
Right.
I get flustered in first service and start doing this. I'm like, that's funny. I've got other jokes. So I'm going to do some jokes. So I just start making fun of him in a horrible way.
He looks like a turtle.
It was so embarrassing. So as I'm doing it, I'm like, oh, dude, you got to bail on this bit. It is not working.
It is not
Crowd's
going.
awkward. This is not going well. So I was like, whatever. And I'm so flustered that I don't say any of the stuff I wanted to say. The first page of my sermon isn't in my sermon because I got so flustered. And then the rest of the sermon just feels like I'm bombing the whole time because the crowd's like, this dude's a jerk. So I'm like, I went back. We're eating dinner, and Ashley goes, so how do you think today went? And I was like, it was so bad. Because I'm like,
They turned on you so hard.
Rightfully so, by the way. That was the most I've bombed in a sermon, maybe ever. I don't remember feeling that awkward during a sermon in my life.
What's funny is it didn't feel.
The rest of the content was fine.
The rest of it was fine,
It
which
was
is why it didn't feel like that much of a bomb.
Yeah, I
I
think it was a
actually,
bomb.
when I was joking with the tech team, we're back there, and I go, because Ray is new with us, and he was laughing. He was kind of like smiling at it, and I go, what's great is half of these people don't know his character. They don't know the relationship they have. They don't have that backstory.
It was all bad.
I didn't realize, and watching it back and listening back, like, oh, it wasn't received well at all. I thought it was like, I thought it was half of the people
stage going like, oh no,
It was bad.
oh. But again,
but at
honestly,
least Scott was laughing at it.
Scott laughed. Honestly, after that sermon was fine. It was good.
Yeah,
it was
sermon was good.
No one carried that in.
It felt, the whole thing
because you feel terrible.
And then I was like, I just felt dumb because I'm like, dude, what a stupid thing to do, especially for. And I told the staff, I usually spend the first 2 to 3 minutes of a sermon getting everybody on my side.
Yeah.
I spent the first 2 to 3 minutes alienating everyone in the room.
Amazing.
So now I'm like, dude, I got to get people back on my side, which now I just can't do.
How did the staff respond to who brought
Laughing their tails off.
Okay. It was
Everyone was
It was
laughing.
great.
And Scott was like, oh yeah, I got a couple phone calls. I was like, no way. He goes, yeah, however many women. He goes, they were all women, and they all were like, hey, are you okay?
Amazing. And did he say, he said it was okay? I was laughing.
He goes, oh my gosh, yeah. He goes, it's just their sense of humor. You got thrown under the bus probably too. He goes, it's just their.
I got sideswiped in that.
Well, he said there, and I'm.
He's right though.
Yeah.
I'll stand with you.
He said it's just their
you
sense
weren't
of
trying
humor.
to be mean.
But it like.
Well, in a sense, he was
was
staying
so
with you guys
dumb.
too. He was like, no, it's fine. It wasn't.
And honestly, my initial thing that I had planned, I actually think probably would have gone over fine. Because it was going to be like,
it was a timing.
I'm above reproach. I'm not going to make fun.
It was a timing
It was that. And then it was, and I'm not even blaming her. I literally gave it to her minutes before. So it was so stupid to try and pivot. And I'm like, dude, like I feel awkward now. Because I'm like,
it kind of points out like just trying to, when there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
Because I think in reading the notes and stuff, and I was looking forward to it, and I thought the idea was hilarious. And in listening back to the jokes, like the ones that you could tell were like planned, and the other ones that you could tell were in the moment. I'm like, I could see how this would have been like, people would have roared. It would have been awesome.
It would have worked if I had. What did I put 5 minutes into thinking about it versus I'd spent the whole week coming up with the bit before. And then, like, now to just switch it in 5 minutes.
On stage, I tried to cue the audience a bunch, like, ha, he's kidding. Ha, ha. Inside, I was going like, oh, no.
Hey, but you know
no.
Here's what's funny. Here's what's great, though. I mean, no one. It's not like anyone walked out. No one was
fine.
like, I'm going somewhere else.
I know full well it's all fine. I just felt so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the funny part that I didn't say at staff, and I haven't told anybody, so I'll tell everybody, is I purposely have been moving towards like a little bit freer with the notes and leaving more room for the Holy Spirit. Yeah. And this one I was very like, I had prepared the sermon obviously, but I had worked really hard to not write down specific things because I wrote down concepts more. So I just went. Which the problem is, then when you get sideswiped, I don't have specific stuff to say, so I'm trying to make it up on the fly. But the Holy Spirit left me a long time ago because he's like, I don't want to be with you.
I have no part of this, man.
I'm not going to be with you in this bit. I was like, oh my gosh. So I was just so flustered and not being able to go back to notes to see like, okay, just get back on track because I didn't have a great, dude.
It's so good.
Perfect storm of looking like an idiot. It was awesome.
It's so funny because we started with, have you ever been attacked as a pastor? And we ended up with, here's the terrible things I've done as a pastor.
No.
That's where we end up to.
I've done way worse.
We've done bad things.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Anyway, so it's funny that you said that because I was going to ask like, and legit on Monday, because you were gone. So it was like, you know what, let's take Monday off.
Right.
I literally was at home like close to depression because I literally was like, dude, why I'm so dumb. Why would I do something that spent all day just being like, God, and the whole time God's like, dude, nobody cares.
No.
Yeah.
Like, and then on Tuesday coming to staff and Scott's laughing and he goes, oh, dude, it's fine. And I was like, okay, because I do love you. I really do. I don't think you're a turtle. Here's my best. Hang on. This is the funniest part of the whole thing is Izzle in staff meeting goes to Scott, as I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry. I love you. Everybody's like, oh, okay, this is a good moment. And Izzle goes, hey, Scott, I want you to know if it makes you feel better. I don't think you look like a turtle. I think you look like a thumb. I was like, dude, Izzle, you're not helping at all.
This is not what we wanted.
It's so good.
And I was like, dude, and luckily, The good news is Scott's an awesome sport
Yes.
and was very much like a dude, it's fine. He was like, don't worry about it. I told everybody, like, we know each other super well. We're friends. I was
He's like, I told everybody. A lot of people are like,
yeah.
hey man, how you doing?
I felt so embarrassed. Like it was, and then I felt weird because I'm like, what I'd love to do is preach next week,
Right.
you know, like a normal pastor, to where I could clear something up.
Hey everybody.
What do I don't preach for another 3 weeks.
It's great. It's great.
I
You've
was
opened
like,
the door
son
now
of a
for,
gun.
is it Joe
No.
or Scott this week?
It's actually.
Well,
Oh, no, it's
Mother's-
Denise.
it's Mother's
Denise,
Day
yeah.
first. Denise and Trish.
on mine, you have the freedom to be like, hey.
No.
Like, on mine, you do that. You have
Now
like,
I probably will.
Actually,
That's a good
yeah.
point.
or
I forgot you were going to be up there together.
Or
Yeah,
you
yeah,
open the door for him to just trash you.
Yeah.
Just to
Nope.
more
No,
self-deprecating.
No, we're going after Scott
no,
again.
here- no, I was gonna go the other way.
Doubling down?
No, I was gonna go the other way. I was gonna bring a picture of Scott up and tell him how great he is,
Oh, that's amazing.
and just be like, oh my gosh, Scott is so great.
So here's the deal. You should, because that would be funny. And
They
then,
won't get it.
And then
They won't get it.
immediately after, I will put a picture of a turtle up and just be like, and just, dude.
Still no? Still not
What's
working?
funny is I really did think, let's just never mention it and move on and just be good pastors from
Yeah.
here on out. Let's not do something stupid. That's
It's
what
so
I thought.
good.
You have the green light to do whatever you want when I'm up
So
next in
funny.
2 weeks.
So anyway,
So, I mean,
that was me feeling like an idiot.
in that sense, though, I mean, the people were sticking up for Scott and less attacking you.
Yes.
It was more just, hey, we love you and care about you.
100%.
Are you okay?
And our church is amazing.
Yeah.
But how do you guys? So have you ever? I don't see this with you. I know you have just because in past. But have you ever straight bombed? You've never bombed a worship set, or have you ever felt like you have? Because
Yes.
I haven't experienced it.
Yeah.
But an actual worship, not music.
2 or 3 times.
Tell me about it. What happened?
It just felt like I was more caught up. I don't know, maybe because I was stressed out in the week or something, and I'd walk away like almost like, nah. And that was when we're doing one service, and I remember just walking off stage, just like when we're done, and I'd walk off stage and I go to the cafe and just sit there and like, Lord, I trust that I know you move and everything, but man, I feel like I just did, it was a disservice. I don't know what it was, whether my
Interesting.
voice was off or I felt like, because there,
Let me check my notes and see if the dates match up.
95% of the time when I'm just kind of keeping it simple, just focusing on Jesus. I'm trying to guide the team and interact with them. Just be present with the people there and allow the Spirit to just do everything, making room
Yeah.
for them. When I'm more caught up in, it could be a new song, or I'm nervous about how this song will go over, or whatever. Those sort of again, the extra moving parts.
Is it when you're focused more on the music than
It
like
could be
the spirit or something?
It could
or
be
what
the
is it?
music. It could be like more like how
You're doing?
I was sick in the week and my voice is kind of back, and now I'm worried how I'm going to sound. I'm like,
Sure.
really, like that.
Okay.
And then
But that does make sense, right?
It
That's
does.
Not bad.
It does.
I
But
bombed a ton.
Have you?
I'm like, again, I don't think people would say it, but you walked off going, oh, that
Yeah.
was, that
like,
was
like
not
feeling sick
good.
to your.
Have you
yeah.
ever had a bomb where the people did feel it? That you
never
can
anybody,
remember?
I can't remember anybody telling me. I can remember feeling like, okay, so probably the most notable one that broke me, like where I was just like, I'm wrecked
Yeah.
over this. So I'm.
Was it the
in-
one at camp?
It was I had a bad one at camp.
The bad one at camp, but then the Holy Spirit moved like crazy. That's
Yes,
the one I
yeah,
was thinking.
I-
of.
I- had a bad one at camp.
Ironman's one?
No, it was at a different one. But I was in LA planting a church, and I'm at this place where I'm feeling like I'm supposed to not plant the church anymore. And my response to God was like, "Hey, it's time to be done." And I was like, "Nope, I'm not a quitter." I'm like, "I'm not quitting. I'm digging in." Like this, I remember this very vividly.
Interesting.
Because I'm like, "No, I'm not a quitter. I'm not doing that." And so that
That's so
night,
funny, and you knew it was God. Like you,
I knew it
you
was
felt
God.
it was God.
But I was like, no. This is
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not quitting. It's been 5 years. So I'm like, I'm sticking around. So I go to speak at a youth night at my largest donors. It's a big mega church, my good friend, and they support us $2,000 a month, which is a lot when you're a church planter.
Wow.
So, and they love us. And speaking at youth nights, biggest thing, all their big people are there. They have a ton of people there, and I'm giving a message. I couldn't put together 3 coherent sentences, and I prepped everything. It was like I couldn't talk.
You're nervous.
I don't know what it was. So I just had this conversation with God, but I'm saying no. So I'm telling you, it was objectively the worst thing I've ever done in my life since giving my testimony when I first got saved. Nothing worse than this.
Oh man.
I come off stage. Everybody and their mom wants to tell me how great it is. I'm fighting back tears. I'm so mortified and embarrassed that I've embarrassed my sponsor. I've embarrassed our church. I've embarrassed myself.
Yeah.
Like it was just horrible. I mean, it was like one of those things where you're just like, you're just, can I get an amen? Like you're doing anything to figure this out. Horrible. So I leave and I'm like literally fighting back tears. And they're like, one guy's like, what's wrong? I was like, my gosh, I'm so sorry. That's the worst thing I've heard. And he goes, that was amazing. I'm like, okay, whatever. I didn't believe him anyways. I thought, you just being nice to me.
Yeah. Right.
So I go in the car and I drive home and I remember pulling over and I'm just crying. I'm just so embarrassed. I'm so mortified. And I remember the Lord just being like, and this will sound weird for some people, but the Lord being like, hey, I can take this gift from you. I just remember him saying that, being like, he's like, this is for me, not for you. And he's like, and I'm telling you, when I tell you to do something, I want you to do it. From that point, I literally at that point called my executive pastor and I said, hey, I think it's time for the church to come to an end. We did. He goes, I was already feeling that.
Yeah.
And so that was the end of the LA church.
Yeah.
But it was just, I mean, want to throw up.
Yeah.
Like mortified. Like when someone's like, I can't imagine doing when there's nothing worse than doing something really poorly and somebody telling you good job. You're just like, that's worse.
Yeah.
It'd be better off to just be like, oh my gosh, that was bad.
It's funny. That's why I appreciated Ashley, because Ashley was like, she goes, the sermon wasn't bad. She goes, the sermon was actually good. And she goes, and I would tell you what she would. But I was like, because I felt like that because I felt like there were 3 different directions I could have gone, and I never really picked one of those directions. I just floated between the 3. So the sermon actually felt clunky too. I felt like that too, where I'm like, I can't put the right cohesive thought together because in the back of my mind, I'm like, you moron! Like, why would you do that,
with that thought
while I'm preaching?
Why am
in
I
the
still
back
up
of my
here?
head is like, dude, why would you do that?
You suffered more than anybody in that
Oh,
moment.
it was hilarious.
That is just torture.
It was you, then Scott, and then everybody.
There's an order to the suffering.
Scott's like, I heard what you were thinking.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for you.
Gosh, it was so funny.
It's funny, if you said all those things about me, I'd have thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, and
Any
I
of
will
us.
say, that's the difference too. We've worked side by side up there for 5-6 years now.
Oh.
Everyone knows our banter.
It also helps that I'm there laughing.
There's a group of
They
people
can't see Scott.
that don't know my idiot dry sense of humor. Nick at staff meeting, literally, I said a bunch of stuff, and at one point Nick goes, I genuinely don't know when you're joking or not. And I was like,
I told you that
you're
when I
not.
first-
You know what's funny?
I know.
I just realized it was, I think during that time of silence on this last Sunday, it was a couple times that Scott felt led to just share, and then he did for both services, share like, hey, this merge has been great. Like, you know, with the worship, and he was very kind.
Yeah.
And
then
and that's the switch. That's what it was.
Oh, even
the crowd
worse.
is like, yes, we're together now.
This merge has been
This
great.
guy is a turtle.
Look at this doofus up here.
This guy said I touched my beard. I'm going to take him to town now. You know what? Touch my beard, huh?
Oh, you think I touched my beard? Well, you're fat and ugly.
What's
It's like,
funny is-
why would you
Oh
do
my
that?
gosh.
I was just talking about your mannerisms.
Dude, it was so, oh God.
Gosh.
It couldn't have been, it is really funny. Okay.
So good.
However, dude, let's get back to, because this is amazing.
Yeah.
Mari Emanuel, we talked about him getting attacked a few weeks ago. The guy's knife malfunctions, doesn't get it all the way out, but does stab him a couple times. He goes to the emergency room. He comes back, so he ends up losing vision in his right eye, if I'm not mistaken, the side that the attacker comes in on. Loses vision in the eye. I can't tell if he lost his eye or just vision in it.
Yeah.
Has a patch on it. Preaches his very first sermon back and says, right when I found out I couldn't see, I prayed to God and told him, God, accept my eye as a sacrifice to how much I love you. Then he says, and I ask all of Islam, all my Muslim brothers and sisters, to accept my vision as a sacrifice to you, to see the love of Christ, to know the love of God. I'm like, this dude's kind of a baller. Like,
He literally debunked the eye for an eye.
Yeah.
Dude, I was like, I'm not sure if there's a better way to handle this. And I know nothing about this guy.
Let's say we know that there were some hateful comments on these videos about him. I can't evaluate those comments. I can evaluate that behavior in those statements.
As we
And
were
that's
hitting
amazing.
record, we just saw comments about how he's a terrible person. And I'm like, I don't know any of that.
Never heard any of that before.
All I've heard are the couple of things. I've only seen him a couple times before, knew nothing about him
I've
before
just
the
seen him on
attack.
social media.
exactly. And so then to hear, and I'm only referencing how he's responded to this.
That's
and
it.
I
That's
think
all we
it's
got.
amazing.
Right. How he responded when he got attacked, how he responded,
This
how
guy
he's
might,
lost sight.
he might be a terrible person in his person. I don't know anything about that. I just know that the two responses he's given right after getting attacked, saying "I love you," to losing vision and then being like, "Accept my eyesight as a sacrifice for you." I'm like, oh my gosh, you're a stud.
That's metal, man.
Dude, it's metal. It's exactly. And he's all dressed up in the Eastern Orthodox. He looks pretty metal
pretty
anyway.
metal.
Yeah.
Let's bring this back to is one of the things that has been basically being charged against the Christian community, and rightfully so, is that when anybody says anything against them on social media, we just destroy people.
Yeah.
Just go after them, and we're like, oh my gosh, what about suffering? What about grace? What about turning the other cheek? This is the first and the second time with the Pennsylvania pastor we're actually seeing Christian leaders do the thing we're begging everyone to do.
Yeah.
Literally be like Christ. Give love for evil. Give good for evil. Be kind when people are mean.
Yeah.
Pray for your enemies. When
And I
they
love
persecute you.
seeing. So I would bet that a lot of Christians, individual Christians, are acting fantastically well. Like Christians that I know, just average Christians, are wonderful people and they're trying to do really well. But what we've got is a bunch of pastors that have gotten into the mainstream. And again, it's the celebrity of being a pastor, which is going to hurt you every time because it raises your pride versus having humility.
Sure.
So they get in spots where they get attacked a little bit. And instead of saying like, hey, let me think about that or address it kindly, they lash back out, and I understand it, but it's so nice to see this new trend of like, and it's this cool trend all happening at the same time. A bunch of celebrities coming to Christ, like Russell Brand that we talked about, then Russell Brand getting baptized. Then we have these attacks, and their response is loving and kind, and you're like, dude, this is a beautiful shift in Christianity that I think, it seems to be, at least on the surface, it seems to be like a wonderful thing happening.
Right.
Yeah, it's the right trend you're looking for. The Pennsylvania pastor and all it's talking about. I love you. Here's my name. How can I help you? When the gun jams when he's being attacked.
Yeah. So the Pennsylvania guy, you want to explain that one real quick? Because that was a crazy. Did you see the video?
Yeah, you got it. I did.
Yeah,
see
the article here says a
Pretty
man
awesome
tried to
video.
shoot a pastor during a church service, but his gun wouldn't fire, state police say in Pennsylvania. They said that the gentleman who tried to shoot him said God told him to do it.
Oh, did he? Okay, I didn't. I was wondering what was the attack was for.
And then he said he planned to shoot the pastor and then wait to be arrested.
He said because he wanted some quiet time in jail. He really did say he's like it's quiet. He wanted to go to jail so he can just have some peace.
Right.
There's other ways to do that than shooting a human.
Right. It is
Clearly not
interesting.
mentally stable.
point.
And the pastor it's pretty predictable response. I'm grateful that I woke up this morning. I'm here. I could have gone in opposite direction. I guess it says Germany, so that must have been the name of the pastor, his last name.
Yeah.
Told the Associated Press, but God has intervened, and I'm grateful for him.
He walks up. The video is actually pretty gnarly. It looks
It
like a
is.
smaller church.
Yep.
Right.
Walks up center stage with the gun, and pretty much from me to you, starts doing this, and you can. Looks like he's trying to pull the trigger. The pastor dives behind the podium, the pulpit. And then another guy comes up behind him and grabs him. Pastor comes out. They wrestle the gun out of his hand. And you're just like, dude, there was no, like, I don't care who you are. I don't care what plan you have in place. Nobody's reacting fast enough to stop that guy.
No.
Honestly, I don't care
think-
what security team you got.
I am glad. I haven't seen online comments or anything, but I'm curious, especially because people are just so critical. I'm curious how people would go like, well, that's not the response of the pastor or what.
What do you mean? Which one? What's response?
That he wrestled the gun out of it?
No, it's just like that he dove out of the way. I wouldn't be surprised if people would be like, well, why would you dive out of the way? Like, why wouldn't you try to confront him?
because you have
But it's also like,
reflexes.
that's why I appreciate it's
Yeah.
like they have record of it. It's just a human being. He's
It's it.
following the Lord.
Yeah.
And he cares for the affirmation of his the value of his life.
Yeah.
He's going to dive out of the way.
Well, it's not even, I don't even think there's thought in that moment.
No.
Because you can tell there's a moment where he's just preaching and the guy's walking up and you can tell he's like, why is this guy walking up? Then he sees the gun and there's even a second of like,
Is that real? Like, is that
yeah,
what's
there
happening?
was this weird, and then when he kind of moved, then he jumped and I'm like,
Yeah.
so, well, the one of the things I thought was so interesting that in both of those cases, the knife malfunctioned and then the gun malfunctioned.
It is
And I'm like,
interesting.
And both pastors forgave and loved.
You will not touch
exactly.
Like the right, you start to
Don't
wonder.
you dare. Don't you
my
dare.
anointing.
That's how this all started. I've read other quotes from him where he talks about where they're arresting him and he's talking about, hey, I love you. I want to help you. My name is, I think it's Glenn Germany. I think his first name's Glenn. I don't
Okay.
remember. And he goes on this long thing, be like, hey, I forgive you.
It's
I want to
beautiful.
help you.
Yeah.
Like, and then you wonder, like, why did it not work against those two guys? You're like, that's worth thinking about. Like
Yeah.
the two guys who are going to be the most loving and forgiving.
There
in this
is
scenario.
something super cool. So when one of us gets shot, we're like, okay, that's why we got shot. And the gun didn't jam because we wouldn't have not
God
responded
saw how I
correctly.
responded to a water balloon to the ear.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's like, this isn't going to be a good example on video.
Yeah,
So.
one
Right.
guy criticized that you took in a homeless guy and you're ready to fight him. So like,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
we don't have the best
That's
responses.
Probably
Yeah.
not me.
I think that really is beautiful, though.
Yeah.
I think it's
Scott
an
talked
interesting
about me
thought.
touching my beard and it was on.
It was
so
on.
That's it.
God
Yep.
forbid somebody actually offend me.
I know, right? We're probably not the Lord. Keep them away from us. We're not.
But
the best.
that to me is such a beautiful, like just with both of
All right,
them.
let me ask you a question.
I love it.
Who? Oh, maybe without names, I guess. Anything about this? Because the one part's personal. Can you remember a time where you forgave someone or someone forgave you? And I'm only asking you for you because you're pastors, where you're like, that was hard, but also good. Like where you're like, I'm going to forgive someone.
Oh yeah, like very recently.
Yeah.
Very recently
Without
for me,
names.
too.
There's
Really?
been.
Happened at the men's conference.
Oh, are you serious?
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I haven't heard this.
It was,
That's so cool. We're gonna turn off the cameras and just hear about this, so you guys can't listen because I want to hear
It
it.
was
Oh, I can't wait to hear the story.
unexpected, but yeah, it was a beautiful thing. Spirit was moving. There was a lot of emotion and unexpected, not from me, from the
Yeah.
other party, and
Wow, dude,
restitution, and it's yeah.
that's awesome.
I don't think I have one, mostly because I've mostly needed the forgiveness. I'm trying to think of, I've mostly messed up with people. So I've spent most of my life saying I'm sorry.
Sure, yeah.
So I'm trying to
Oh
think
no,
of,
I have
You're thinking of like
I have a
you can't
lot
think of one
those.
specific time.
I can't think of a
'cause it's-
time. I'm sure I've forgiven people, but I don't think I have anything where someone's done me so epically
Oh,
wrong.
I thought your question was that when you've been forgiven.
Oh, I said either one. I said
Okay,
either
yeah,
one.
okay, yeah.
So yeah, I think it's one where I didn't have the chance to say that I forgive them. They didn't come and they didn't ask for my forgiveness. I think there have been people like where they've done me dirty and I just had to say I'm going to
Yes.
forgive them and move
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Right.
But I think mostly the big
Which
moments.
is the tougher version, in my opinion. That is the harder version
If
where
they,
I'm like,
if I'm telling you, if you show up and ask for forgiveness, it's a done deal,
Dude.
But
Yes.
it's out there, and I just have to be like, I got a heart to forgive.
that is a different game, and that's the animal, which is tough because even when Christ is, he's like, if you go and you are coming to take communion, and someone else has something against you,
Leave your gift on the altar.
leave your gift, go to them. So there's this constant vibe in Scripture of going to that person, to making amends, to doing it face to face, like, and so it's really different when you're like, oh hey, I feel hurt or wronged. And this person doesn't give a rip, and they genuinely don't care or don't think they did anything.
It's in line with that iron sharpening iron. You know, it's not just the building one another up and edifying Christ with each other on your walk. It's, hey man, I wronged you. I want to be accountable for what I did. Or
Which is
hey,
hard to do.
Oh, super hard.
is.
Or hey, you know what? Like this is something that's been on my mind, on my heart, and I want to talk to you about it. This is how I felt. Like you took the pound of flesh, and you know what? I'm gonna forgive you. I don't know where you're at with that. Like those situations, that builds a brother for life.
Do you think you're more inclined to own it or want them to own it? Like, you know, when you're thinking about like these moments, like, because I'm trying to think like even now as I was thinking through, just all of a sudden I have that conviction of the Spirit being like, hey, do I need to go make something right with this person? And I really felt like the Lord, because that's me, I want to.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it'll be hard, but I can do that. And I felt like the Lord saying like, because sometimes I'll rewrite history and think I ended things poorly.
yeah.
And the Lord's like, no, you didn't end things poorly. In fact, if there's anything that needs to be done, it'd be on the other side. But I tend to want to own it. Like, be like,
I think,
it's my fault. What do I do?
and not, this is nothing against you because I'm the same way, but I think it's because that's easier, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I think it's easier to say, especially after you've done it one or two times, you go, oh, there's a lot of healing, and it's very cathartic to just say like,
Making amends.
yeah, hey,
you get into,
I
you get
screwed
into a
up.
groove
That's
what
of
it
like, I
is.
just keep going.
It's kind of
for it.
fun to do. Like it's difficult and it's hard, but like that's easier than feeling very wronged.
Yeah.
Like, you really, really hurt me.
Yeah.
And even when you do say, like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm like, it's okay. Like, I forgive you, but can you fill this void that you took from me?
Yeah.
Whether it's, financial was my last couple that was really hard. So can you fill that financial void, or can you put a salve on the wound of of like my family that you hurt, or me? That's honestly so much more difficult for me, because I do forgive, but I'm like,
You don't forget.
but it still hurts. But I don't forget. That's
Love
old,
keeps
it's like
no
a
record
dirty
of
Harry.
wrongs.
It's a dirty Harry line.
It is. It's literally against the Bible. But I
that's
agree
what's
with you. And I think because I messed up so much, when people have wronged me in big ways, and even like financially, I'm quick to go like, oh, I forgive, because I'm remembering I've been forgiven much. But that's also kind of a hustle to not let myself feel that pain. To like, okay, it's not that I'm not going to forgive them, but I should be okay with not trying to dodge that pain.
Right.
Because I'm like, well, I've messed up so much. I'm like, no, I should be able to go like, hey, that deeply hurt.
Yeah.
I am upset about that, and I will forgive. But I think I've just kind of hustled myself out of being like, quickly go to forgiveness.
But that's the hard part, because I think there is something admirable and probably something we should get better at, which is when we're minorly slighted, we should be able to let those things go very easily.
It's funny that I have trouble with those more.
Yeah, you
the
do.
The big ones, I rise to the occasion. The little ones, I'm like, well.
Because honestly, the little stuff, it's like, we really should. We've made mountains out of these very small offenses, even in our culture. Like, if you look at our culture today, and we don't need to get into the debate, but it's like, you didn't call me by the pronoun or the name that I wanted to be called, and then we're like, that's violence toward me. I actually just saw a video today where they said, like, if you don't call me what I want to be called, that's an act of violence. And the guy was like, technically, no, it's not. Like, violence is very different from simply.
By definition, it's physical.
Exactly. Right. So they got into this whole thing, but I was like, all that aside, I thought, man, we've taken the small things, and it's this. Another side note, it's probably because if we don't have a lot of pressure in our culture, like if we don't have a lot of adversity to overcome, you kind of make them up. We've seen that all through history.
You mean drama?
Yeah, we do. I mean, honestly, that's the Greek, the Roman Empire, all the different empires. The more comfortable you get as an empire, the more you let your guard down. You create tension for yourself.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we see that. So the little offenses, and it's like, when those are big to us, when something really big actually happens, we lose our minds.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that was for me where I'm looking back, I go, oh my gosh, it wasn't even that big. Like, it was big.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I shouldn't have gone through depression. I shouldn't have been like, dude. But I did.
Why do you say that? You shouldn't.
Honestly, because that's what was so difficult. And I think I said this a long time ago, but it was the thing that made me most upset is I lost money in a bad investment, and it was more like deceit, and they had forged documents. So they so I looked at it as they stole this money from me. So it was a lot of money, and they stole that. And I was more upset that I was so upset. It made me so mad, because I've lived my life for the Lord for the last 30 some odd years, where I've devoted myself to him. I've gone into ministry.
60,
yeah, exactly.
It was the first 30, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
First half of his life.
But like, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm in such a good place with God. Money's not an issue for me. You can't serve two masters.
Right.
All those thoughts
Right.
of money's not, I don't even care. So then I lose some, and apparently I cared a lot.
Was it the not trying to place this in your thoughts or your words, but was it ever like, God, how could you allow this to happen?
There was not really, because it was more of why did I make such a stupid?
And I mean that.
It was more self-blame.
More
It was
that.
all self-blame.
But I have twisted that where it's like, how could you let me be so stupid?
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to seek your guidance all the time. Why didn't the Spirit just like give me a total nudge? Like, don't.
That's
do
the hard
this?
part, is I think the Spirit did give me a total nudge, and I went against it anyway because agreed. It was easy money.
So you're saying that the depression was very valid?
It was valid in that it was valid in that I was experiencing it.
Yeah.
But it was more of just how stupid I felt that I let something that I think is small it become this mountain in my life that crushed me.
And just the
I'm
fact
like,
that you're thinking that.
yeah,
It's that
exactly.
cycle.
Oh, it was the worst cycle to be in.
It is interesting because you're very generous, but it is interesting when money is taken on someone else's terms.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's a very different thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like I could picture you giving that amount away.
Well,
Like
that's what
would.
was difficult. And I
You
even told
would.
Ashley, I said, could you imagine what we could have done for other people with this? Not even for me, what I could have bought. It
Right.
was like, I could have helped so many freaking people.
Well, I mean, the first sense of it
heartbreaking.
was like, like your children. Like,
Yeah.
it's not you,
100%.
it's your children's.
No, that was
future.
part of their retirement fund, or
Right.
part of their college fund. I mean, yeah.
They're,
And my
they're not even going to go to work.
No, I
They
wanted them to
just go straight
retire
to
at
retirement.
18.
Now they're just
Yeah.
working home. I mean, what?
Why 18? You don't need a degree now. Kids, stay home.
Dude, just relax.
Yeah.
You're good.
So anyway,
They're like, Dad, that's not enough.
yeah, but that
We live in
so
California.
That's the thing where, and then the guy who legit stole the money, but he didn't steal it for himself. So I've given him he called me to sit down and talk. We finally talked, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that was weirder and harder to think through and forgive than if I'd have, well, I don't know. If I'd have done that, it would probably it would wreck me. But he was wrecked. He apologized. It was real. It didn't seem fake. And I'm like, it was neat though, that difference of I was trying to forgive him for months and months and months without him reaching out to me. And I texted him a million times to be like, dude, just talk to me. Finally, when he reached out, I was like, dude, I'm gonna rip this guy a new one. Like, I'm irritated. Then when he sat down in front of me, I went, oh, I actually have so much empathy and sympathy. And like, oh my gosh, man. And I really did. I'm like, I do forgive the guy.
That's
and it was
probably the best illustration of why social media is bad.
yeah.
Right? The idea of just, you don't see them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, all you have to evaluate is what's been written.
they're
I
not
think
even
the
real.
post.
Texting
They're
was
not
the start
real.
of that.
Yeah.
You miss the connotations of what they're saying.
Yeah.
And you're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
hey,
And then you see them, you're like,
Right.
oh,
I think the worst is when you don't bring it up. You see them in person, especially whether it be maybe a Sunday morning. Like, hey, man, this was said during the week, but hey, how's it go? Good to see you. God bless you. And then that resentment just festers more and more.
Yeah. That's that beauty of the if someone has something
I did say it was
against
starting on
you.
Sunday.
I didn't forgive you, though.
But that's the if someone has something against you.
Right.
You're like, they wronged you, or you wronged them, they're mad at you, or you didn't even do anything, but you know.
Right.
I like that kind of like, it's the double, where it's not just that you've wronged somebody, it's that they have, so it's drop everything. And I do think that's a beautiful lesson of like, all right, let's just get our stuff in order.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
there's just this piece of, it's a practical nature of God and scripture that says,
Yes.
hey, let's keep the unity of believers, because that's what clearly is the most important to Jesus. Oh my gosh, he like wept blood and cried blood and sweat blood because of this. And he says, just let them get along with each other.
Yeah.
Let them be unified.
That is so incredible.
Let me ask a theological question since we're talking about this. I know we're talking about these pastors forgiving. I just want to think about, I'm sure we've talked about this before, but I'm just bringing it up again on this topic. Is forgiveness, does it have two parts? Meaning, like, I've always thought, and I could be wrong, I'm open to being wrong, so I'm bringing it up. I've always said I have a heart to forgive someone, like, you know what I mean? But I think people need to come to seek forgiveness to actually receive it. So I'm like, I have a forgiving heart. Like, if they're willing to come to me, I'm not holding this against them. I'm not holding on to it. But it doesn't feel like it's actually done till they seek forgiveness. Is that inaccurate? Do you think that's where's that failing?
We have, I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast, but I know we've talked
You're
about
saying
it.
if you've been wronged.
Yeah, if I've been wrong,
Yeah,
and I
and,
just say
and you do forgive the person.
I'm
where you're
willing,
like,
I'm willing to forgive them.
But you're saying there's that part, and the other part is them seeking it.
is it complete before they come to you and ask for
I don't think it's true forgiveness if you're seeking them seeking you. If that makes sense.
No, it does not.
Okay, I don't think it's. Sorry. I don't think it's
I
true.
actually understood.
I don't think it's true forgiveness to be like, yeah, I forgive him, but it's really not biblically complete until he actually comes to me and goes like, hey, I know you told me that you forgive me, but I really want just to be sure, like.
I think there's not a holding on. I just think of like the idea of salvation in Scripture.
Yeah,
Where God
not
pays
even
for
a holding on,
sins.
because I think you're
I'm
saying
not-
two different
Yeah,
things.
I'm not holding on. I'm more like
yeah.
along lines of it's like God, John
There's
3:16, paid for the sins. All can be forgiven, right? But it doesn't happen until people receive forgiveness. So I thought, is that different for us as humans? Where I had this like,
I
I
don't
love
think
you.
so.
I'm willing to forgive you. I'm not holding anything against
So
you.
I think it is different for them. I think that if your heart has truly forgiven, and here's the problem, I don't know what that means. I don't know the difference between I say I've forgiven them, but there's something in my heart that's off, to the next day where you actually have. I don't know that actual distinction.
And does it come back when you're like, I totally have forgiven them?
Sure.
But then your souls, then you brew again.
I think forgiveness is a process.
Kind of like you stir 100%. Again.
100%.
You're like, okay, no.
But I think God knows our heart.
Right.
And I think for you, you're doing the work that needs to be done. That person doesn't experience the forgiveness until they've come to you.
Oh, okay.
So if they were to hear a rumor that you've forgiven them,
So that is
it's
a
still not
that's
complete.
the two part. I
Yes.
can understand that.
All right, and I shouldn't have this feeling of I will feel complete when they do this, because that's not really the part of it. That's the part.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
It's the letting go.
Yeah,
Because I can't control anyone else in any way. So if they never, in fact, if for the rest of time they tell me and I hear about how they didn't wrong me, they're lying about it, whatever it is, that shouldn't change my forgiveness. Again, not saying that's easy or I even know what that looks like.
Right.
But I think that's good. I think that's like, yeah, I have a heart. I always say I have a heart to forgive. But the reality is, I do forgive, and I don't need them to come to me.
Right.
That's good for them.
Oh, it's
but it
very
doesn't.
good, yeah.
It shouldn't be good for me in the sense of like it will feel good, but that's not what I'm waiting for.
Yeah, and that's what's funny is that's what was the biggest takeaway when the guy sat in front of me, and I mean I do think the Lord was moving in his life. He was broken and he apologized, and I actually had the thought, oh my gosh, this is totally for him.
Yeah.
And I realized, like, I have forgiven this guy. I'm still mad about the money only.
Yeah.
That was it. It was like, dang it, there's good that could be done from this, but I also know that God restores also. So I'm like, we're going to be fine. So that was all separate. And while he's talking, I was like, dude, this is totally for him. And it was weird because I went from I kind of want to withhold forgiveness because I want him to suffer. And then I went, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I actually want to be a part of this guy's restoration in the kingdom. I don't know what's going to happen in life, but I'm like, but in the kingdom, I want him to sit before God every night and have a clear conscience, even though he's done wrong to people.
Yeah.
God does forgive, and I want him to know that. Like, I want to be a part of that. So it changed everything. It was really cool.
I definitely recognize that when I'm holding on to resentments or holding on to that forgiveness, which is really holding on to the resentment or whatever it is, whether it be valid or not, there's no room for love. You're right. It takes up space and it festers fast.
I love the word fester.
Yeah.
Uncle Fester?
Uncle Fester?
Uncle Fester.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know
No
why I
room
like
for
that
love in
word.
that guy.
None.
No.
He's very loving, though. It's very confusing.
He was like the kindest one
He
of
was like the
all.
nicest.
the realization of that was when I went through the 12 steps, and it was the beauty of the steps is
Which step is make amends?
so
4.
that's moral inventory, moral and fearless inventory. But the beauty of the steps
Forgive me.
is step 8 is you made a list of amends to all people you've harmed. Step 9 is making the amends.
Oh, they have a
to
full
people.
step to make a list.
But here's the beautiful part. So step 9 is making amends to whenever possible, except when it injure them or others in whatever way it would injure them. The beautiful part is step 7.
It's the weirdest caveat. I get it, but it's a weird caveat.
They-
Well, I mean,
they really have
it's
done
very
it.
realistic.
Yeah.
Is step 7 is you humbly ask God to remove all your shortcomings before making the list of your amends and then before making amends. And so the idea of that is you're giving it to God first.
Yeah.
Like, these are the resentments I have. These are the fears that I have. And this is my pride and my fear. These are my shortcomings, Lord. I give these to you. Once you do that, you have the sober-mindedness and clarity, ironically, to
Pun intended.
to make this list out, because you've already done the inventory of all the stuff that you've done and you've left undone. That's the Lutheran in me. And but then you make the amends whenever possible. And I remember it was one of the most terrifying and fulfilling seasons in my life. It was over years of, whether it be going to an old boss or sitting with my dad and then sitting with my mom, with my grandparents,
Yeah, that's pretty baller.
And it was,
pretty
that's
epic.
cool.
it was crazy. I mean,
Let me test your Lutheranness.
Yeah.
May the 4th be with you.
and also with you.
There you go.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Lisa says it every time.
That's so good.
That's
Have you heard of the Revenge of the Fifth? That's like the next holiday.
yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really clever. So
It is
people
genius.
keep cosplaying, but it's for the Sith.
That is
It's pretty funny.
amazing.
Yeah,
right.
but what's funny is that was my favorite part of the service. from since I was a kid,
Yeah.
and also with you.
And
Really,
also
that's
with you.
funny. So to wrap all that up, go and ask for forgiveness for those that need to, and forgive others.
Yeah.
Do it.
It'll change your
Yeah,
life.
it's good.
Yeah.
I think honestly, that conversation, I think it will help people be like, because it really does, even it's touching on for me, different parts
Yeah.
of forgiveness dynamics
Yeah.
that I've been a part of that I'm like, makes me just rethink them. What do I need
Yeah.
to do something differently right now?
It is life changing. Like I know and you know what's funny? I've been thinking this so much about, because we're not super political, but I see it so much in the political sphere. Like Trump is in court like
Yeah.
daily.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you know how different it would be? And when was the last time a politician, like, hey, you know what, guys? I'm sorry. Like, I messed up. If a politician were
I covered it for 3 hours yesterday straight.
Oh, really?
1 hour today. You know how refreshing that would have been if someone just said, I just want to say I'm sorry.
No
You mean
caveats, whatever you
like
got to
the
do.
Driscoll and Lindell
I'm just
situation?
but
bringing it up.
I mean, why don't, and I think partly is a lack of humility. The other part is they've built these personas up because
Yeah.
their teams have told them this is what you're supposed to do. And
Well, they
look like
probably
to
have
be.
scripts too.
For sure.
Yeah.
But it'd be so nice if someone was just like, oh my gosh, I screwed up. Or like, I held this belief at one point. I didn't have all the information.
I was
I've
wrong.
changed my mind. I was wrong.
I'm not the same person I was. Like I've grown.
We don't. I don't know if we don't allow people that space or if they just won't take it. But
I think-
man, that'd be refreshing.
And jail time is on the other side.
Well,
of that.
I think because
And that'd be amazing.
We're
Like,
saying
I accept my jail time.
so there is jail,
whatever scenario.
there is jail time for him. I seriously have not been following.
It's 34 counts, and they're classy felonies in New York. They're mostly fines.
Did you
but
say
they can't,
classy?
classy
felonies?
Classy felonies. Yes.
I thought they were classy.
They're classy felonies. They're like they're the lowest form of felony in New
Yeah,
York.
okay.
But he could be given 4 years per count. That's not typically what you do, but they
Yeah.
hate him.
The only thing I
So
heard that
the
I thought
chances
was
are they're like, oh, we're gonna give
Yeah.
you 120 something years.
just because.
we can.
The only part I heard that I thought was interesting was that if you break the gag order again, you'll be in contempt. I was like, oh,
It's twice. He's got two warnings.
what exactly was he do? Like he was talking about the case? Is that what it was?
Yeah, that was one, and then he had 2 different warnings for being in contempt, which
interesting.
is not surprising.
No,
He can't
it's not
keep his
surprising.
mouth shut. That's not who he is.
Anyway, I hate to bring up politics, but
Yeah,
that was,
because
it was
we
just
don't
interesting.
we don't
to
care.
me.
No,
We're-
I think
we're
it's
just observing it.
Yeah, no, it speaks into how it's so refreshing in our society if someone did that, right? Who's a public
be
figure.
great?
I think there's a reason. I think the catch of it is no one would believe it, even if he did do that. I think our society
right.
is so
Because the only apologies lately are the shame ones.
only when they're caught.
Yes, and they're always the shame ones of like, you tweeted this 12 years ago,
Right.
and people are like, I'm sorry.
And I'm not
what am
even
I doing
speaking in
with that?
regards to like cancel culture. I'm just saying generally people go, that's a publicity stunt. He's publicly apologizing.
You know what's cool
It's not
about
genuine.
apologizing though is it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're really not doing it for anybody else, people are going to doubt it.
Right.
We
Yeah,
just
but it
saw
doesn't
this
matter
on
if they-
the
But I can
Mar
understand-
Emanuel. Someone's like, well, this guy's a bad guy.
Yes.
And I'm like, I don't know about that, but what he's doing right now,
Yeah.
I can understand that's
respect
why
that.
they wouldn't go, hey, you know what? Whether Trump says, hey, you know, I know you write my script. I'm going to go off script for this 2 minutes and apologize.
I don't even think,
think he has a
anybody,
script?
I don't think anybody writes scripts for him anymore.
No, probably not. He
Yeah.
writes his own. But even if he does, I don't think they waste their breath on that because they go, this isn't going to get
Yeah, you're right.
review. This isn't going to get views. It's not going to be watched.
Yeah.
People aren't going to care.
yeah,
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
that's nuts. All right,
Yeah,
what's
but
our next story?
forgiveness is real.
Yeah.
do we
About how atheists are wanting to live in a Christian society. And this is speaking into that.
This is so interesting to me. So Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins, Dawkins?
Yeah, it's Dawkins.
It is
Yeah.
Dawkins.
Both atheists.
Both, they're,
Because it sounds like Richard, another name, who used to be the guy for Family Feud. His name sounds like it.
no, there's another atheist, the original.
Yeah.
Who's like the original?
I don't remember, but Richard Dawkins and
Shoot,
Sam
anyway,
Harris.
Richard Dawkins
They're
and
the most
Sam Harris
well-known right now.
are literally 2 of the 4 horsemen. They're called. They're what's called the New Atheist Movement.
Yeah.
They have been so outspoken. If you don't know who they are, I've heard so many debates with them. They're very, very intelligent. They're incredibly well spoken. So staunchly against religion and God. recently both of them came out and call themselves cultural Christians. They say we don't believe in God, but I want to live in a Christian society. And my question is, do you think it's possible to have a Christian society without Christ?
What do you think, Josh? I have an opinion.
To live by the ethics of Jesus' teachings without recognizing Jesus. No.
Why not?
I think you can start that way, but it does not last.
Okay, you don't think it'll last
That's
because
interesting.
the authority of it is that
Right.
why? Because
Well,
the authority of it isn't there.
All I know is that we worship, humans worship, and if I don't have a higher power in my life, I place myself as God in my life. And
That's
when I do
super
that,
interesting.
it's unhealthy for everyone.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, because you're just trying to make it civil law, right? This is first century Jews, right? Where they have religious law is also civil law.
Right.
But if you
Yeah.
didn't believe in God, what is holding together? But again, from their perspective, the idea they're saying is that people do have a moral compass on their own. And if you
Absolutely.
lay out good
Right.
policy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Do
Well,
unto
and-
others if that you should have them do
Yeah.
unto you type of thing.
Right.
And new atheism says that
Atheists.
is that
They're isms for atheists.
we don't need a God to have a moral compass, which the natural response is, you're right, you can be moral without God. Absolutely. Yeah. But I think Josh brings up a good point is, does that last? And their whole thing is like, I don't need the fear of hell. I don't need the fear of God or punishment.
Or the reward of heaven.
Or the reward of heaven to do good. I can be good on my own.
Yeah.
Which is just funny because biblically, we're told that there is no one good, not even one. And so I think as much as I love the starting topic and conversation of, do you have a cutter?
Do you have a torch? I mean,
The starting conversation that goes to, I love that we're talking about being good and like being good moral people,
Right.
because that helps us get the conversation of where does good come from? How can you judge good without evil? If there
Sure.
is, those are great conversation starters. Sometimes it really is, one, countercultural and kind of awkward, but two, really needed, where we just stand on scripture.
Right.
As much as you, and this is really difficult to say, but as much as you say that you can be a good person, I'm told in scripture that no one's good.
Here's the deal, though. It's almost self-defeating. I'm saying I'm a good person by whose standards? The ones that I'm writing.
So that's the best argument, that is the like, how can you say anybody's done something wrong?
Yeah.
If it's truly relative, and I think we've talked about this
it's
before on here.
cultural
Right.
norms or societal norms is what would actually dictate it. You say
And if
these are things we agreed upon.
Hitler said that his culture was, that's what he
Well,
wanted,
if black
and the
people were 2/3 the
And people
vote,
and the
accept it,
masses and
accept it.
exactly.
You can't-
So what are you supposed? So it is this weird, like, whose standard? That's the C.S. Lewis when he first said, like, how I judged the world because it was crooked, but how could I tell a crooked line if I didn't have a straight line to compare it?
So what if people just said, I'm going to apply, we'll just say the Beatitudes and the Ten Commandments.
Sure,
Right,
well,
and we'll
which
say-
they can,
except
right?
the 10 Commandments say honor God.
Well, you
okay,
can-
so the 9 Commandments.
9 commandments. But you can
And don't worship idols. The
Yeah.
8 Commandments. How many do you get?
you can will yourself to do something good.
Yeah.
Right? Or
Yeah.
not do something bad.
And
I'm
you
not
could
gonna
see how
punch
it
you in the-
benefits society. So I would say, also at the same time, here'd be my little twist on it. I don't think you can avoid honoring God even if you don't believe in him. I think you're wired to know what good is. So I'm not saying.
Sure. Well, yeah,
so
yeah.
I think you're wired to know what good is. So I do think if you took the Bible as a map, I think even you're like, there is no God. God's placed eternity in our hearts.
Sure.
And so I think there is this element made in his image, turning in our hearts,
Right.
where I do think it would fall apart, because I do think, obviously the fallen nature of man and stuff like that. So I'm not saying it works. I would just say that's an interesting deal. If you grabbed a bunch of atheists, here would be my thought. If you had 10,000 atheists, put them in a town, we're going to live by Christian standards. And we're going to live by, and they're going to use the Bible, because that's if they're saying we have a Christian society. My thought would be, is they find God. Mm-hmm. That's what I think ends up
Really?
happening.
You think so?
I think they end up
It
finding
reveals
God.
his character.
I think you end up finding God, because I think.
Oh,
that-
I don't. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So what's funny is
I don't at all.
I actually really liked that.
That
I'm
experiment,
saying
you want to
that
segregate?
it falls apart
Oh.
because I was actually more on the cynical side of it. and it's like it's not gonna fall apart. It's gonna fall apart. It's not gonna last because we're naturally selfish. We'll make ourselves God and the God complex. But I like the hopeful look as a Christian. I should have probably thought about that more, but that may fall apart because it's an atheist culture. They're atheists living in a Christian culture with, I don't even know where you draw lines, but that will fall apart because they may not be atheists by the end.
So I love that thought. I think you're wonderful. I think that's very naive.
I think,
because
I mean, he
The
said,
word of God will not return void. So if they're
100%.
reading it as a map,
and plus, where do you draw lines?
well, they're not reading it.
Well, I'm using it like if you just had it as your laws.
Sure,
Right.
but what I'm saying is, and this is what I would do, is we've done kind of that exact social experiment with the U.S.
Yeah.
And they did that exact social experiment with Russia and Germany. Those were Judeo-Christian societies that held to
Right.
fundamentals.
Yeah.
They purposely took those out. I mean, I remember the Cold War when they took the Bible out. We've watched that happen in the U.S., and I think what we're getting right now is that exact thing, is let's try and all be really good to each other and be kind
Right.
and selfless, but there is no God, and there's no recourse for the bad things other than the laws we've set up. And so I agree. I think there's a great possibility that people would meet God as that people meet God all the
So
time.
you're saying like, because you're using U.S., which is filled with Christians and non-Christians.
Well, it's built on Christian foundation.
Yeah, so you still have these same. So you're saying some people would find God,
But simply
the way
taking,
it's run,
simply
wouldn't all of a
taking,
sudden-
and this is what I'm saying, taking God out, trying to leave the principles in, but taking God out is not in my opinion, total opinion.
That's what I mean. No, I've done
Is
this
not
experiment. I have
going to
facts.
work.
Oh.
I don't think it can work because I think at some point you go, I'm not feeling good today, so I don't want to obey the rules.
Yeah.
In fact, there's no real recourse for them. And what's funny is I listen to Matt Dillahunty and some of the other big atheist guys who are like, you're the worst person ever if you think we need rules to be good. And I'm like, okay, then I am. Because honestly, we all have bad days.
Right.
And so I think it's very arrogant to say that 100% of the time I'm going to be and do good based on my willpower.
Right.
Willpower, we know from scientific research, willpower is a limited resource. It's finite. It runs out.
It's funny is I thought my theory in my mind doesn't make it right. Was that it's in the failing that they find God.
Yeah.
That's what I think it does eventually in the long term.
Which again is kind of what we're seeing now,
Well, and
right?
'cause-
With the big shift back to Christianity
Yes.
is because, like Russell Brand, who articulates this very well, is he says, I tried secular humanism. I did everything for myself.
Right.
It was empty and it brought me to God. I needed to mess up so bad. So there's a chance of that.
Right.
I think that society tears itself apart in the meantime. I think it's horrific.
I think with atheism, what I really appreciate and respect about all these, like Richard Dawkins, it was Daniel Dennett's and Christopher Hitchens.
Christopher Hitchens. That's the name I've been trying to. Christopher Hitchens,
the
by the
Four
way.
Horsemen. Yeah.
Christopher Hitchens, watching him, that dude was hilarious. I
Yeah.
saw, super side note, and I apologize. He's on an interview show where they're like this, and he's sitting there, and he says some pretty aggressive things. I think it was against Bill Maher, and the audience started to boo, and he just flips off the audience, and he goes, "You think I care what you idiots think?"
I'm an atheist. I
And
don't
he
care
just,
about.
Why was he against Bill Maher?
because he's
Is
an
Bill Maher
absolute
an atheist?
yeah, but Hitchens was a brilliant guy who didn't care about what you thought, and
Right.
anything that you said that was outside of what he had constructed of the worldview, you were so stupid for holding that view because he had really thought through this. So any pushback at all, and basically he started bashing on the U.S., and this was a time, it was way back, I think it was in the 90s or 2000s when he said it, there was still some patriotism, so the crowd kind of booed him, and he's like, you think I care what stupid people think? Like, you pander. Oh, it was that if you made fun of Bush, George W. Bush back in the day, everybody cheered. Like, everybody mock him because he's so stupid, and he was saying how dumb you are to do that. He said that's low-hanging fruit.
Right.
There's no benefit to that. It was very intelligent. And the crowd was like, you're stupid. He was like,
He's like, you're proving my point.
he did. He was like, you're so stupid that you don't even see what you're doing.
Right.
Anyway, the dude's hilarious, but he's
no,
one of them.
one thing I respect about it is at least there's conversation. At least there's, it gives you insight on the why. Like you're like, I'm atheist. Why? And they give it to you. So it's the same idea of they're constantly thinking that. I think if they took some more time, and they just take the Sermon on the Mount, and then someone goes, hey, why? Why is this law? Why is this?
Yes.
And they go, you know what?
Why?
Because it benefits me, it benefits you, it benefits our growth of our society, our income.
However, can't I benefit more
Right.
doing it differently?
Like, wait, why don't I take ownership of people?
Well,
Why
here's
don't I
what's funny you said it. It triggers some thought in there where like the fear of hell, right? Like, oh, we don't need the fear of hell or the fear of like eternal consequence. I'm like, but you believe in the fear of immediate consequence.
Right.
Yes.
Because you would still,
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
so you still believe that consequence matters.
Yeah.
Because even if you're running a society, so you're making it seem like we don't believe in consequence by saying like we don't need eternal. No. You do believe in consequence.
Benefit is a consequence.
Yeah, and
But I also think that you're living life like it was like we're just mortals. Living life like we're eternal is different. The older you get, you start to function like, oh, wait a minute.
Things get simpler.
Yeah, and it's and more profound. And like if my soul is going to live on forever, my spirit will live on. Like then I should adjust what I do on this earth if it reflects in heaven. Like
and
I
problems
should.
get smaller.
Absolutely, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Problems get smaller.
I think it places it gives you a sense of security where, like, we've talked about earlier about being defensive when people are talking about.
What are you
the
talking
truth.
about?
Yeah, about when you're defending your faith, and I'm like, that in itself is an odd statement, and it's like I have the security knowing that we can argue for the rest of we can meet every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I know what is truth, and I believe it. There is a sense of faith, and I love when the who said it. It might have been Dawkins. It was a Christian and an atheist arguing, and he says, "I say this with confidence." He's because the Christian was saying, like, "How can you say that about this is truth or whatever?" And he goes, "I say this with confidence," and the guy goes, "Oh, so you have faith?"
Yeah.
He goes, "No, I don't have faith. I say it with confidence." He goes, "Confide, with faith."
Yeah.
So I thought it's just funny. It's like. So then it brings you back to being intentional with your words. And that's the same thing that we're taught is really understanding the power of the tongue, stuff like that. So it's fascinating. I don't think you can successfully, paint out a goal or write out a goal of, we're going to build a society, a culture that is atheist in its, application, but you culturally operate by Jesus's ethics.
Yeah, Judeo-Christian standards.
Yeah,
I think they want to benefit from what God is doing in the lives of Christians without having to adhere to it.
So it's funny you said that. I heard a great commentary on
Which
them
is
saying
selfish.
that. He said imagine if you love apples, but you hate the apple tree. And so your goal in life is to cut down all apple trees. And then you're mad because there's no more apples. You've done you have tried to undergird and cut God out of culture, but you love the God culture.
That's really good. Who said that?
I don't know, some random YouTube guy that I heard where
That's
I was
a great
like,
analogy.
Johnny Appleseed.
I actually
No, it was Isaac
why
Newton.
No, it was George Washington.
Who apple fell on his head?
that was Newton? Isaac
Yeah.
Newton. But I just thought, like, dude, that's a great way to, like, you hate the apple tree, but you love the apples. You want the fruit of the labor of what it is to be a man after God's heart, to be a society that is at least trying to honor God in what they do, but you hate God. And it's so funny because they're like, no, I just don't think he is. And I'm like, I don't know, there's a lot of hate for this. Because honestly, if I don't think there's a God, I go, I don't think there's a God, and I walk away.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm ambivalent towards
You love
it.
the idea that I'm going to turn the other cheek when you're mean to me,
Right.
because of what God's doing in my life. But then you don't want that for yourself.
But
you love that I'll do it.
And I think it's so funny to think like, and I do, and maybe it's because I'm a terrible person, like they would say, but I'm like, I'm not turning the other cheek.
Right.
If there's no God, I'm not looking out for your best interest and putting you above myself. If there's no God, I'm not going to.
I didn't.
No, I'm not doing it.
I wasn't a Christian, so I grew up being like, I didn't do the, like,
I was gonna say.
I know
You
difference. I
protect
didn't
yourself,
do it.
you get yours,
Yes.
that's everything. And as much as you try to do it the right way or the good way,
Yeah.
at some point that is falling apart.
I lived a life of honor amongst thieves, right? Where without rules, we made them. right? So we just made our own
Absolutely.
morality. That's
Yeah.
all we did is we
Yeah.
we conjured it. And for some people, they really hurt from that.
Yeah.
My rules, my culture, my tribe, we made it up. And then if you weren't a part of that, you suffered from it.
Right.
For sure.
So
Right.
and I benefited as best I could. And by the way, I didn't even benefit that much.
Oh, no.
It was terrible.
You sadly
Yeah.
don't. Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson just did their fourth debate recently.
Oh.
So if you haven't seen that, you should check. I haven't watched it yet, but I'll watch it tonight. I'm pretty excited.
So anyway, atheists, give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, that's
best of luck. And we're here when you want to talk.
Interesting dilemma. Honestly, that is the fun part. Is that it's
Yeah.
like,
Or just hateful comments in
give
the,
it a whirl.
in, in the
you
comments
know
section.
what? I appreciate the hateful comments more than you guys.
What's
do.
interesting is
I love them so much.
it's still the conversation of like love. You know, God is love. 1 Corinthians 13 explaining what love is and how to live it out. It's like, are you going to live that out or only certain parts of it? In regards to forgiveness, which I think the meekness and forgiveness are two aspects of Christianity and following Jesus that separates us greatly. So in having a culture like that, which of those are you going to hold on to? And again, think about the why, because you're going to go to bed at night and go, why? Why am I being meek in this situation? Why not benefit from this and just totally destroy that person?
Yeah.
But then we're appreciating half of these aspects of love, but love itself is just a construct. It's not an actual thing. It doesn't exist. It's neurons firing. But then
It's
love,
also reciprocated.
And
It comes from a place of a benefit, whereas God's love is we just receive it.
it's unconditional.
It's unconditional.
And
That's a hard concept
It keeps
to put into
a
a culture.
record, and that's what I love. It's explaining God's love that we can live out, that we can try to attain, live up to what we've attained, and it's that love keeping no record of wrongs. It's like, I don't know.
Oh, now you're back on that?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
You just
That's why I'm bringing it all together.
I mean, love keeps no record of wrongs, but oddly, God has this book of life with names.
There's a lot of wrongs in
Some
there.
sort of record.
Yeah. So, all right. You want to move to a Mike Weiner question, or we have?
How long have we been going?
It's been close to 2 hours,
Let's
probably.
do,
No.
yeah,
hour and a half.
It's been a while.
We
It's-
started
I still have my first cigar.
It's
I've looked at how
4:15.
much cigar I have.
Yeah, but we've been
It's
talking a
4:15.
lot.
It's-
All right.
I am intrigued to see when we're done.
So let's do some would you rather's.
Would you rather?
Oh wait, this one's good. How do you deal? Wait, this isn't a would you rather, but the would you rather's are bullet pointed under this. How do you deal with pressure in ministry?
Oh,
Oh,
would you rather?
that was.
Would
You know what's
rather
funny?
We can
Not
make it
deal
into
with the
whatever-
pressure.
Would you rather have pressure at ministry or pressure at home?
Yeah.
Let's do this. I actually save that for next week when Floyd gets back.
Oh, that's a
because
good-
I think that's a great
Yeah.
thing that he'll be able to speak into because he was under a bunch of pressure.
Right.
Went on 2 weeks, so I'd love to hear what he
Yeah.
has to say about pressure.
And he just received his doctorate. For those who are joining us for the first time.
Yeah.
So congratulations
That's
to
why
Floyd.
normally we have another human right there, but he's not here.
Yes. Okay. So would you
So, yeah, we'll
rather
save that.
never see your best friend again or never speak to them ever again? Are you saying with our senses?
I didn't create this.
Would you rather never see your best friend again or never
Just looked away from me after he found out I wasn't the author.
or never
Like, sorry,
speak to them
Ryan,
ever again?
Joe's not a part of this.
I mean, I feel like that's exactly what it's saying. That you
Like
never
phone calls.
you never
Right.
see them so you don't you can still talk to them if you don't see them, but you never get to hang out with them, obviously.
But if you see them, you don't talk to them?
Yeah, you just hang out and you're like
It's all the 70% of body
you would
language.
learn you would learn sign language and call
So
it a day.
what? So what is it? So what would you rather do? So basically, phone calls or hang out, and not talking.
It's an odd because qualifying a best friend is you've spoken a lot.
Do you have a bestie?
Have a bestie,
Sir, who is your best friend?
sir?
Oh,
Oh, is Sir your best friend?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute.
But it's been through a lot of challenges and speaking
a
with
lot of
each other.
something.
Yeah. And
Well, that's the thing I was going to say. We actually do experience some of these. Scott's a great example. You talk to Scott all the time. You see him a few times a year.
Right.
Whereas you would just cut those few times a year out. So you're like, I know what one of those would be like. When
Yeah.
Trevor lived in Minnesota,
Yeah.
Right.
we talked, but we only saw each other once a
I
year.
saw him this morning.
Trevor?
Yeah.
Oh, how fun. Did you really?
Yeah, I was walking out of McDonald's, and he's like, Joe, and I'm like, oh, weird guy.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's
That's
like, it's
awesome.
Trevor.
with Chris, and he just randomly showed up here, which was awesome.
Yeah.
That's the first time I had seen him in several weeks.
Right. So we experienced that. We've never experienced the I see you all the time, but we never
But it's not like we just sat here and we're just quiet.
Yeah, looked
We-
at each other.
We literally we talked.
So that's because it'd be easy to pick because I know what the one is like. But I'll tell you what, that does get real old.
Yeah.
Like to just be like, yeah, we were talking on the phone, But what's fun is the road trip, is the,
Right.
hanging out together. And so
Grabbing a burger together or
without
something.
that, it's
I
such
feel
a
like
bummer.
I feel like the question's better if it was like your kids, because my kids could
I'd like
be in
to
my
never see
presence.
them again.
That's right.
Oh, is that
my kids
too-
could be in
too
my
fast?
presence
That was quick.
and not talk. If I could just hug them or hold them, but even then, I'm still going with the talking. I'd rather talk to them.
I'd rather talk to them too.
Yeah.
I think there's just something about, unless you could come up with, and I really do think I would just loophole it, learn sign language, and we're like, yeah, deaf people have great
Or
relationships.
you both
I'm
have
in.
whiteboards. I don't know. Just-
I'm gonna go sign language.
Whiteboard,
That
that takes too long.
That's a lot of work.
I did
Just
it with my
carrying around.
surgery. I had a
Oh my
whiteboard
gosh,
with me.
there's Trevor. I haven't seen him in a while. Dang it, where's my whiteboard?
Hey, buddy.
Oh, good to see you. I just happen to have this with me.
Especially if you see them their way across and you want to yell to get their attention, like, and you have to write "hey" really big.
And they're like, why are you carrying a whiteboard? You know you could text me, right?
I'd be like, oh, that's right.
When someone's far away and you're trying to like direct them to do something, or you're meeting your friends at a restaurant, do you actually yell like "we're over here," or do you go "hey, we're over here"? Like I notice I whisper.
Everyone does it
Why?
when they're far away.
Or if you're in a car and you're like,
Yeah.
like, hey, have a good one. Like, hey, have a good one.
You're actually. Hey,
I whisper.
You just
and I
like,
go,
hey.
why am I emitting any sound at all?
Because it's too weird to just mouth the words. I've thought about this before. To be like,
yeah.
you have to let it out.
But there's no. But it's like, okay, I got to be
Pointless.
this
It's not
loud
helpful.
for them to hear me.
No, the sound is
It's just
pointless.
something funny I noticed.
I saw a guy in In-N-Out. I think it was Shepard and I. No, Shepard and I were sitting at In-N-Out waiting for food, and it was super funny. Oh, it was Eli and I. Sorry, not that matters at all. And this guy was talking to somebody across the restaurant to find a table, but he was so angry because he's standing in line and the place is packed, and he wants this other person to go find a table now so that after he orders, and he's going like, hey. But he's trying to how do you, and the guy's clear across the restaurant. It's super loud. He starts to get louder and louder, and I started laughing because he's going, fine, and he's doing this. Get it. He's trying to mime a table, and it was a horrible mime. I was like,
Amazing.
and I'm looking at him because I couldn't figure out what he's doing. And then he just started getting louder. By the end, he goes, find a freaking table. Go. And I look because I'm like, who's he? And it was his kid.
That's
and he's so
amazing.
angry because his kid's
That
not
is
getting the
so
table.
good.
Dude, it was one of the best. I looked at Eli and I was like, this
why is
is
this
wonderful.
buddy across the room not getting a table? Oh,
Right.
it's your kid?
Yeah.
My kid would definitely be across the
It
room.
was this kid literally
Not getting
just
a table.
standing there and he's like, get it. And he was trying to do the sit down
Yeah.
with a motion of a table, but it was I couldn't even do it. I was like, what's he saying?
Right.
How would you
Genius.
pantomime a table?
Uh,
I would do this. I would be like,
Oh, and that's what he was trying to do, and the kid was not getting it.
That's
so
amazing.
it
you just
was
got a full commit.
genius.
Hey, Frank, find a table.
That's what
Yeah.
he needed
just,
to do.
just one
That's what he
full
needed
commit.
to do. It
Yeah.
was genius. Anyway,
would you rather have a face that everyone laughs at or a name that everyone laughs at?
A face that everyone laughs at or a name that everyone laughs at. It's got to be name, right? You don't want people seeing your face and laughing immediately.
I don't know if I've ever thought that. I don't
That's a
know
great-
where you found that.
That's a
but
great thought.
That's the funniest
face
idea
everyone
that
laughs
everyone laughs at your face. It's not.
That's horrible.
But there
Oh,
are
that's
people.
you are
genius.
devastated.
But there are people that are just naturally just the way they look.
No.
Right? Like comedians.
Remember
like
remember Bitter Beer Face? Remember that guy from the commercials?
No, I don't think
he,
so.
He had a face. Oh, this was a long time ago. Yeah, it was a big lever. He had a face like that. He made a career out of it. And if you're a comedian and you could just walk on stage and get laughs, that's kind of a win.
like Steve Carell when he does the serious face.
So you're going making money on it. But the reality is every other version in life.
Oh.
Every other 99% of your
no.
life is people seeing your face and going,
I'm
like,
trying.
honey, I'm home.
I'm trying to
laughs
give
in your face.
reasons to the most obvious question I've ever heard.
Yes.
Because there's no
I
chance
will
you're
say
picking
the only
face.
way you do it is if you're like, I'm a comedian. I convince myself and people think it's funny. And then that's just what I do. So when people
Yeah.
laugh, like, of course.
But you can't tell me you don't deal with depression your whole life because every time you go out, people are laughing
Like
at
every
your face.
comedian?
Every funeral, every romantic moment.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? Like
That'd be
every,
so
every first date.
That's the thing. Do people always laugh at you? Because
Every
if that's
time.
the case, there's no chance.
No.
Whereas if it's name, they find your name.
Even
they
if you
think
become
it's
a
funny.
billionaire, you're never sharing life with anyone because you're like, they can't
I
stop
don't know. I
laughing
feel
on
like
my
that'd be
face.
a really fun life.
Well, let's not forget that there was a professional football player named Dick Buttkiss. Okay?
Yeah.
So let's not forget that there are names out there that are genuinely funny.
But that everyone laughs at.
I'm taking name.
Yeah, they laughed at it until he became the craziest lunatic
Right.
on the
Yeah,
field ever
yeah.
because that dude was a baller.
Yep. And you just go like, I get it. I got a
Yeah.
funny name.
Yeah.
I could shrug that off.
Boy named Sue wrote a song
Right.
about it. Like,
Right.
come on, it's fine.
No, the face that's too much.
Nah,
Would be.
It's too
You get-
devastating to your soul.
Yeah. You
Can't do it.
just get all the like, I got a
Yeah.
funny
I wonder
name.
if you get like discounts though. People just pity you, like, oh, come on, hey, 50% off for you, buddy. Thanks.
You're just all angry. You know what? I'm paying full price. This isn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't take you seriously with your
Dude,
face.
with your face.
Yeah.
No, that's
No.
horrible.
I think it'd make, in a way though, you'd make life a lot better for a lot of people.
I mean,
And horrible for you.
and horrible for you.
Horrible
I think
for you.
it'd be a fun sacrifice.
So you're picking face?
I do
No,
think.
he's not picking face.
I think it'd be fun for like a year.
A year?
Yeah, just
A
make
year.
people
It'd be fun for a
happy.
week.
Just make people laugh and happy just for a year.
I don't think you could handle a day.
Yeah.
I think I would
Really?
be. I think I would be devastated if everyone.
Yeah.
Like you're driving in the car and the car next to you looks over and they're like, "Oh God, what is wrong with your?"
Here's what's
like,
fun though.
I can't
Like,
handle that.
it's your normal face, but just
still,
everyone laughs
Well,
at
you
it.
start doubting the quality of your face.
Oh yeah,
Doesn't
no,
matter.
yeah,
I
no
mean, we're
chance am I
asymmetrical.
like.
Doesn't matter. You start be like, okay, they're like, ah, ha, ha.
I
You're
would
like,
take the
okay,
face for
I
a
do
year.
want to talk about this casket though.
Year.
Yeah, I'd do
So-
it for a year.
I do want to talk
About this casket.
I do want to have a
I
conversation.
do have
There
pancreatic
is a
cancer.
person-
And you keep
I
laughing at me.
just do.
I don't like this.
Just give me the diagnosis, please.
I get it.
No.
You're my counselor, but I'm about to be divorced. Can we just have a
Yeah,
conversation
it's
about
not, I don't think you could do it.
it? I can't do it. I can't
This
do it.
24
This is
hours
a-
is too much.
this is a
I-
very
24 hours would be
realistic one.
Horrible.
Would you rather live in a country with low cost of living but horrible weather, or live in a country with high cost of living and amazing weather? That's real life. This would you rather is
Easy for
very.
me.
So it's would you rather live in San Diego or Stockton?
I would live in a
or-
low cost living place.
Oh, right. I was gonna say northern Michigan, the upper UP, or California.
Yeah.
Because upper UP is freezing cold, horrible,
Yeah.
and cheap.
It's brutal.
No cities near you.
Yeah.
Or
What's funny
or
is
California.
is to see some of those cities getting expensive, like Duluth and stuff, where it's just miserable. But it's
right.
like, why is it costly to be here now?
People are like, I want to be alone. Like, go ahead. Go,
There's
go
probably
be
some
alone.
areas in like in Oregon, like in Jefferson. The counties. that
Oh, yeah, no, there's
recognize
some.
themselves as Jefferson in the Pacific Northwest.
We have Jefferson in California. California has got a ton
that's
of
right.
Jefferson areas.
Yeah.
But Oregon isn't that inexpensive.
No,
Well,
Oregon
and that's what
can
I'm
be
saying.
really
There might
expensive.
be pockets, but it's like the weather's you're getting rain all the time.
Yeah, you can go.
I would say what constitutes bad weather, to be honest with you, because I'm like,
And plus,
no,
Fresno's bad weather.
but I would say for me, it'd be like
Your bad
6
weather
months,
is-
6
no.
months of brutal winter.
No, it's 12 months.
And it's probably the
all
weather-
year
Okay,
long.
well then it's 4 months of rain.
Because it's Alaska. You know what? Alaska is
You can live in Alaska. It's cheap.
horrible spot.
last
for-
frontier, bud.
Have you seen some of those towns where there's like, it started off where there were like 6,000 people, which is a tiny town, but over the years, because it was like, for whatever reason, their resource, their fishing town, and now there's like 120 people that live in an Iceland. It's ice the whole time, and they live there, and they do the 6 months of light and 6 months of dark.
Oh my gosh! I mean, you're painting the worst picture.
Dude, it's their life. I
Yeah.
can't.
And if you grew up with it, think about how it's built in you.
Yeah.
Like you see the world as 6 months of light, 6 months of dark. You move away and you're like,
No.
this is weird.
A buddy of mine who was like an expedition guide, he moved up there for 2 years, 3 years, something like that. And he told me all about like they sell like a tinfoil type product that you put all over your windows so that you can sleep at night, because it is daytime for about 4 months straight where it's like it barely gets dusk.
yeah,
and then there's
it rides the
Yeah.
horizon and then goes back up.
and then there's about 4 months where it gets where it gets darker,
Oh,
but it's always
where there's-
kind of twilight.
Yeah.
And then he said there's about 4 months where it's just straight dark. You get up, you go to work, you literally go to work in the dark. You work all day, but it's dark outside.
No.
Like,
I had seasonal affect
Dude.
disorder for sure when I was in Chicago because the sun was just never out.
Yeah.
It was depressing.
Yeah.
Especially in the
can't.
wintertime, the daylight hours are so short. You go to work in the dark, you come
Yeah.
home in the dark.
Yeah. My parents live north enough where their days are half of the year are shorter and half the year are
Yeah.
much longer.
Yeah.
But they're not.
yeah,
They're
they're
pretty
not.
close to the border.
Yeah, but they're not high enough to where it's
No, not where it's 16 hours of sun.
Yeah, I was in the last time I was in Russia. First time anyway. we were
Second time?
It was the first time because I just realized because we didn't know we were there at a time of year. I had no idea. We were all hanging out at night, and I was like, "Hey, I'm getting kind of hungry. Do you guys want to grab some food?" And somebody we were with was like, "I don't think anything's open." And I was like, "How's something not open? It's like 9 o'clock at night. Like, it's dusk, and I mean it's bright dusk to where you're still wired,
Yeah.
we're lively, we're hanging out." It was 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And I didn't know because we were just hanging out.
Whoa.
And I was like, wait a minute, but didn't know that we were there at that season, didn't know I was far enough north.
Right.
So it was such a shock because I wasn't ready for it.
Well, plus you went back. You traveled there half a day back, right?
What? You mean losing a day when you travel?
What does this have to do
Yep.
with it?
Lost the
Yeah.
day.
Oh, no.
No, because in his circadian rhythm, he'd still be like instead.
Oh,
of
I
the-
see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I had no.
That's why you-
I
Right,
wasn't
right.
even slightly tired.
Right.
And it was 2 in the morning, and basically it never got fully dark. It stayed at this
Oh, really?
dusk, and I mean by dusk I mean like it's pretty bright outside. You could
Yeah.
see nobody's headlights were on their cars. Like it was still bright enough to where no street lights were on. So it was the weirdest. I'd never experienced it before, and I'm like, I couldn't do it.
So I choose
Couldn't
low
do it.
cost of living with horrible weather.
What?
Yeah.
I choose high cost of living with good weather.
Why?
That's why I moved here.
I honestly,
It's a lot more expensive
Yeah.
and way better weather.
I think I would work more. I'm just like, because that would get so old. It's funny when you said snow, because I thought rain. I think rain bugs the heck out of me.
Although the rain in England doesn't bother me as much.
The rain in Spain.
I think
Falls
because it never
mainly
goes to because
the
it never
planet.
goes to snow. I think that's why it's not as bad. But rain is like there's nothing to do
Yeah.
in the rain. There's something to do in the snow. There's nothing to do in the rain.
There is something there where I'm like, snow is annoying, but snow is vacation
No,
for me.
but rain, you're wet.
Because
See,
I
that's the
never,
palm
I
trees
never
for me.
lived in it.
Right.
Exactly. But living in it sounds miserable. But to me, the rain is the like, I can't do what I want. It's super annoying to even take the trash out. Where I'm like, you gotta get like, but it snows the same way.
Wear
I guess.
ponchos all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't stand.
It's like anything else. It's like snow when you're vacationing is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I would go home 2 weeks a year over Christmas and it's snowing, like, this is
Yeah,
a blast.
it's kinda fun.
Even driving, it's a little crazy.
Right.
But then you leave it. Then like the holiday's over, you're going back to work. You got 4 inches of snow on your
Yeah.
car. You know what I mean? You're freezing cold, and you're not going to go snowboarding. That's not what you're doing.
No, you can't
You're
snowboard
going
every
But
day.
if I live,
Work.
if I live in a high cost living place with nice weather,
Which you do.
and then I want to go,
you
kinda
currently do.
yeah, and then I want to go on vacation, but I already live in a high cost living place, so I probably won't be able to afford vacation as often or as far or nice.
Are you planning to move? This feels like you're planning to move.
No, I'm just trying to. I'm playing it forward. Like if I live in a
Or
low cost
just
living
make
with
more
horrible
money.
weather, I would appreciate going anywhere.
What's funny is in America, you could live in low cost and nice weather, just not near cities.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
it's possible. You can
right?
go to
I
Tennessee.
think comparatively,
You
we're
absolutely
we're in lower
can.
cost compared to the rest of California,
For sure, but not low
but
cost.
not compared to the nation,
No, not
No,
even close.
we're actually pretty
which
high.
is weird.
What gets me is the I don't know if I know where's Lisa from?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. I think
Milwaukee.
Wisconsin's like this too.
Sheboygan.
But in Minnesota, Trevor would tell me they had days where they would do a big warning and say, "Don't go outside with your mouth uncovered."
Oh yeah, no.
And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Because the if you walk out from being in a warm room, you walk out and take a deep breath, your lungs freeze and you die, or you get some horrible sickness because the ice crystals form inside your lungs because you got accustomed to so you have to cover your face.
Your body warmth doesn't.
Nope, you actually get like people die every year.
You freeze
from
to death.
exposure
Oh, yeah.
from walking to get your mail. People die from
In
exposure.
Chicago, every year people die in the cold and in the humidity. Both those kill
insane.
people.
Yeah.
Like just
I don't get the humidity one, to be honest with
Wait,
you. That
they
one's
die
it's
in-
so
bizarre, but-
thick, and if you have
No,
any kind of,
It's
if you
just
have
weird to me.
Usually
Like you
old,
drown?
Yeah.
usually older or younger. So babies and elderly both die because it's just thick in their lungs, and
It's so sad.
You already have
Oh.
kind of some breathing.
It's so sad. And there's nothing you can do because you live in it. It's the atmosphere around you.
Well, this is
Crazy. Yeah, we ended on a high
note.
note.
Good
That's
note.
a good note.
the last one. Would you rather give up
Okay.
pizza forever or never eat fries again? Pizza or fries, bud?
That's a really good question.
Ooh, that's better than I thought it would be.
I want to say it's not hard, but it actually is hard. It's a tough question. I think I have the answer, but it's
I give up pizza.
I think we have different answers.
I give
do
up
too.
pizza.
I'd give up fries.
I knew you would give up fries. You like pizza a lot.
I do. And I'm thinking like, again, my favorite pizzas versus my favorite fries. If you laid down a table right now,
No.
if you laid down
I think I'm with Josh.
Giordano's pizza,
Yeah.
right, or just your favorite pizza in the whole world,
Yeah.
and then a basket. And for me right now, Doghouse fries are my
Doghouse
favorite fries in the
yeah,
whole world.
yeah.
So right now, there's been nothing. Those two better. I'm going Giordano's.
Pizza's amazing, and I love it. It'll break my heart, but goodbye, because I've had so many iterations of loaded fries before that are just absolutely life-changing.
I guess if you're making your favorite fries are loaded, sure. I'm still pizza.
It's more difficult than I thought, but I'm leaning towards fries.
Wait, you never eat fries?
No, to keeping fries.
Okay.
I'm leaning towards because I eat way more fries than I eat pizza.
Yeah.
Because fries are a part of
Every meal.
so many
They
meals.
can be.
Yeah.
Basic food groups, man.
Every place, every fast food joint, every doghouse
So you're going
visit,
frequency
food
is the
trucks.
issue.
That's
so
what
if we
I'm
laid it
thinking.
out in this table, we're all walking hungry, and you got your favorite pizza and your favorite fries.
That's the tough one though,
Oh,
because
favorite fries, man.
because the pizza's the meal.
Yeah.
So I get to eat a pizza and full fries are accompanying a lot of meals, but the
Right.
frequency is the fries. I'm still really torn.
Mediterranean food, chicken galaba on top of fries is so good.
It is.
It's amazing.
Well, the galaba didn't sound appetizing, but I believe you.
A big globa.
Yeah.
Galaba chicken.
I'm pizza. I couldn't do it. And here's funny. I never eat pizza. I eat fries.
I know.
I don't know why I'm picking it, but it's just a
I think
thought.
that's why, and I'm thinking frequency.
Frequency is the right thought because I eat fries at least.
How often
at
do you eat
least-
pizza?
Never.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's super rare.
You know what? I don't eat pizza much.
I eat pizza like once.
See, the
every
problem
5
for me
months,
is I
but
eat so
fries
much.
almost once a week. Because when I'm having like hey, let's have
100%.
a yummy meal.
Yeah.
I'm getting Doghouse and I'm getting
And
fries.
fries are with it. Although Ashley will bring home more than pizza probably once a month.
More than pizza is so good.
She brings home more than pizza.
Yeah.
And so I'm like,
They're the
so
square
pizza's pretty
slices,
great.
right?
Yeah, just
You-
laziness.
Chicago
That's
cut.
all that is
Yeah.
lazy Chicago
Where you have to
cut.
serve it with a spatula.
Well, and also dumb because you realize there's like 20 pieces of that pizza that aren't good because they're 90% crust.
Well, and
drives me bonkers. That whole outer
not
rim where
wrong.
you're like, it's a little triangle
It's
of
weird.
crust.
It's weird that people like the triangles. I don't. I never did. No. But it's
you mean the
slices?
there are
triangle
people
shape?
like, they
normal-
look forward to like, oh, I get the little triangle. I'm like,
Oh, no, that's the
I'll
stupid.
take a centerpiece. You can have the triangle.
I will say though,
It's one bite of toppings.
Chicago deep dish, you can cut that almost any way because it's just a pile
Just
of.
cheese.
Yeah, I still don't consider it a pizza
Yeah.
because it doesn't. It's not.
It's a calzone.
It's a casserole.
Or it's a casserole.
It's a
yeah,
freaking casserole.
Yeah.
But it's a real good
It is a
casserole.
good casserole.
That's a better note. Thanks for joining us on You Won't Hate It. I'm Josh.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Floyd.
Yeah, Floyd. Floyd, we missed you.